Brad just cleaned me out. Tried to tell him money's for charity. He doesn't want to know. Then he tells me what he thinks ought to happen to moles. Disgusting. Not a nice man.
I shall never buy Quick Cup again.
Neither shall I, Mrs. White. Neither shall I. Mr. Kirkbride and myself have just exchanged words, and I'm afraid I lost my temper. He really is a most unpleasant man.
He is that. Oh, would you mind looking after my stall just for a moment, Vicar? Nature calls.
Oh, pleasure, Mrs. White.
Oh, Vivian. Not enjoying yourself? You know, when you were a little girl, you used to get so excited on the day of the fete. We could...
I know, you've told me 1,000 times.
Oh, pardon me, I'm sure.
No, I'm sorry, it's not been a good day.
No, it hasn't, has it? Last year the proceeds were stolen, and this year the guest is a disaster. Why don't you go and find that nice Professor Plum? He'll cheer you up.
You know you might be onto something. I think I'll go and see how Mike Mustard's doing.
Oh, don't worry, I'm never going to have him again.
I should think not. Oh, hi, Vivian.
Hi, Mike. Where have you been? I've been looking for you, Barbara. How's it going?
Well, much better since we got rid of that man.
Got rid of him? Here he is. Mrs. Peacock! The dragon's been murdered!
So, the dragon is slain. And all the evidence points to these 6 murder suspects. But first, just who was dressed in the dragon's costume?
Oh, I think I can answer that, Mr. Fellini. It was our village constable. P.C. Jones had such an instinctive voice. I knew it was him in the dragon suit.
I planned this because last year some of the proceeds from the fete disappeared. So I thought that if we put an undercover agent in disguise, it would be a very good idea.
So, there are 6 murder suspects, 6 weapons, and don't forget, 6 rooms at the Grange. The drawing room, the study, the kitchen, the dining room, the billiard room, and of course the library. So where amongst all of that is the solution? Well, our detectives are ready to interview the suspects, but first to decide who actually starts. Tony and Coretta, a test for your own powers of observation. Reverend Green there was seen taking money from the tin. How much did he take?
£20? £20.
£20, correct. This means you have the right to cross-examine the suspects first. You have 3 questions and then a deduction. Oh, and one final point before we start. 5 of these suspects here will be telling the truth. Only the murderer can lie. So your first question, please, and to whom?
Well, we thought we'd ask the first question to Mike. Would you like it French or English mustard? We don't quite talk about. I'm sorry. Question is about bullets and rifles, isn't it?
Do you have supplies for the rifle that you were shown shooting at the target?
I certainly have, yes. It's a perfectly ordinary air rifle, which I get shot for in the village.
A well-prepared military man, I'm sure. Second question.
Reverend Green, crazy name, crazy guy. It's about the 10 Commandments, really. I wanted to ask you, in pursuit of a cause, would you ever break one of the 10 Commandments?
Oh, yes, I've broken commandments. I'm sure a great many clergymen have. Oh. I'm sure even His Holiness the Pope probably lost a little love to the Argentinian side when Italy was knocked out of the World Cup.
We are all fallible.
Yes, we're all fallible.
We're all fallible. First question.
We are indeed. The third question, what about Mrs. Peacock, do you think? Because Mrs. Peacock, you're a bit of a goer.
Sorry.
Rather
I am a very active member of society.
That's what I meant. Ish. And here's the question. That's right. No, we don't have a question, in fact, for you, Mrs. Peacock. We're going to...
Question for Professor Plum.
Yes, Professor Plum is much better, yes.
Can you tell us who you're speaking to on the telephone?
Sure. My broker. Your deduction, please.
Our deduction, yes, I'm glad you asked us that.
Who committed the murder, with what weapon, and in which room?
It is Professor Plum with...
Why?
Why? No, all right, it isn't all right. I'm trying my best, thank you.
All murderers have motives.
Absolutely. What do you think?
Nobody's showing off to the audience. Can you get a move on, please?
All right, yes, all right. We think it was with the dragon's tail. It would have been in the sauna. I'm sorry, no, not the sauna. It would have been in the dining room, we think.
So it's Professor Plum with the dragon's tail in the dining room.
Yes.
You are, in fact, wrong on all three of those assumptions, so they can be eliminated totally from our inquiry.
Thank you.
Now, the advantage passes over to David and Andrew. 3 questions, please, and a deduction.
Mrs. White, we've noticed that you're in the habit of carrying certain bottles with you. What do they contain?
Well, they do contain a little something for my nerves.
As the housekeeper, are you in charge of keeping vermin down or mice in the kitchen or anywhere in the house?
Oh, yes.
You are?
Oh, yes, definitely. We haven't had much trouble, but we did have to have the rodent inspector in recently. I didn't tell you that at the time, Mrs. P.
3rd question, please.
Mrs. Peacock, towards the end of our investigations, we noticed that you, Colonel Mustard, and Constable Jones were actually walking towards the house. Can you give us an idea of what you were discussing?
What a frightful afternoon it had been. The weather only just was holding up, and that Kirkbride quick-cut business was really too much to bear.
Your deduction, please.
I'm afraid to say, at the moment, our first instincts are to say that we believe Mrs. White is
Why?
the suspect.
Yes, that's right.
We think, funny enough, it was done with poison.
Possibly the poison she's just...
Maybe she's
The poison I'm
self-inflicted.
drinking at the moment.
And we believe it is done in the kitchen.
So you're saying it's Mrs. White with the poison in the kitchen.
Yes.
I can say that you were right on 2 of those assumptions. What's your verdict, Sally? This is your chance to point your finger at the guilty party. Please make your decision now. Amazing how so many people can be so wrong. Less than 1 in 10, 9% of you in the studio here voted for Miss Scarlett, but a very high 55% pointed the finger at Mrs. White. I wonder, is that your view at home? We'll take a short recess now, a chance to gather your evidence together before we find out who really murdered Police Constable Jones. Welcome back. The village constable, P.C. Jones, has been murdered at the Garden Fete with, we now know, one of 5 possible weapons in one of 5 rooms at the Grange, and the certainty now that Professor Plum has been eliminated that one of the 5 remaining suspects is the murderer. And at this moment, the finger of suspicion is pointing decidedly at Mrs. White. Now we can see what happened between Constable Jones and Mr. Kirkbride when tempers had had a chance to cool.
And until your driver gets back, you can stay here.
Look, you've no right to do this.
Just be glad I'm not booking you for behaviour likely to cause a breach of the peace.
It wasn't me. It was that vicar. You can't take a joke. And as for that militaristic nutter, Colonel Mustard.
I thought that militaristic nutter showed remarkable restraint, sir. If I'd been him, you'd have still been seeing stars.
Oh.
Now, I've got a job to do, see? So if you don't mind, I'll leave you here. But I don't expect to see you again. Understood?
Professor.
Constable. This is where we find out how well designed this costume is, eh?
So, to decide who has the chance to apply this new evidence first, David and Andrew, a test for your powers of observation. P.C. Jones said Kirkbride had to stay in the drawing room until when?
It was, calmed down, is it? Yeah, it was until he'd calmed down.
Wrong, until his driver got back. So that means the advantage passes back to Tony and Coretta.
Hello.
But now that we're sort of nosing towards the truth a bit, just one question, please, of any suspect. One question and then a deduction.
It's to the Reverend, isn't it?
Reverend Green.
The Reverend Green, that's right.
Can you tell us why you took the £20 from the sales of the T-shirts?
Oh, yes, of course. I was merely retrieving the float.